Okay, thanks guys. We got one more session before lunch, and you know him well. He is a very well-connected, smart person for our industry, and he's also a little bit of a character, and I can't really control what he says here once he gets the microphone again, but a great person who works on the brokerage and technology side, so understands those things, which is really important to our folks. So Suzanne keeps reminding me to actually read my notes as we come up here, so we make sure that we get all the details right. We'll talk to you a little bit as soon as Dan's done about the happy hour and sponsors and things going into lunch. So hang out for another 20 minutes for a great new session coming up here by Dan. Come on up.
Good timer. Well, hello everyone. I wanted to bring you guys a session to talk a little bit about data quality in our space. It's something that Remax and 73 being our data company, has been focused on this year. As we've gained new customers internally, more adoption of our data internally, we've realized that we need to up our game a little bit in data quality. So today I want to walk you through real quickly before lunch here, the process we've gone through this year, things we've done previously, and things we're hoping to do tomorrow. Now, I just did my introduction, but I do want to show you my new profile photo. Thanks to MLS Grid for this wonderful profile photo that they shared of me on LinkedIn. All the text I received of things that were photoshopped into my hands, I do appreciate that. So I will be using this going forward as much as possible. So I want to bring you through the stages of how we used to think of data quality, what we're doing today, and what I would like to see us do tomorrow. And I say this because we are downstream from you, from a lot of MLSs, right? We're way downriver from listing input to us as a consumer, digesting that information and putting it on remax.com. So what I'm trying to say is I would like to see it improve upstream before it even gets to us in this way that we see it today. So the data quality of yesterday for us, and likely for a lot of you, is support. A lot of our, two of our support folks are here today. Kathleen and Travis are here somewhere. Are they in the, oh, they're right there, which many of you know. Downstream, we receive calls or we receive feedback or information that something is wrong. And then we go in and fix that something is wrong. Majority of you probably do data quality this way today, very reactive, right? You're not doing anything, there may be some things you're doing proactively to identify quality issues. And today I want to talk about some standards that could potentially help us with that today. So I have some examples. This is my first example. I want you to guess the price of this home. I'm not going to tell you its location, so that's the secret. And I will tell you it starts with a 9. Go ahead, yell some out. 98? Great. 925,000? Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. Actually, someone got it already, but they didn't get the original price. So this home hit the market at $96,500,000. How many of you believe that price? It's in Boulder. Now we believe the price, right? No, this is the most expensive home ever listed in Gary, Indiana. Now, how is this possible? How is it possible a home hit the market at $96.5 million? Yeah, a typo, right? So someone called and said, hey, I think you put the price in wrong. Oh yeah, I need to go in and fix that. This happens more frequent than you would think. But how often do I update listings? Every 5 minutes, right? This hits me. How often does it hit Zillow? Every 5 minutes. So you get emails like this, new property that hit the market, $125 million in Benton Harbor, Michigan, near where I live. Now you see Lake Michigan there, it's absolutely beautiful, probably worth $125 million. The views are worth $125 million, but this isn't the price. but this is an email I received about the price, right? Again, we're very reactive. We say, oh, something's probably wrong here. We should probably send an email. Now, a lot of you complain that the Zestimate is wrong, or in our space, we like to make fun of the Zestimate, but honestly, look what you're feeding it. I mean, it reacts to this kind of information. Don't believe me? Look at some prices sometimes around Zestimates. If you list a home, the Zestimate is recalculated within that day or even the next day and creates spikes like this that may not be accurate. So this is information where I say, how can we get ahead of this? How can we make sure that data quality gets better in our space? So let's talk about data quality of today. How do we inspect? How do we check? How do we make sure things are getting better and that the data coming to us is of high quality? So I'm gonna take you a little tour on the RE/MAX data factory here, the 73 data factory, where we've stared internally at ourselves to say, where can we find problems, right? Who likes to work in support? Has anybody worked in support before? Just please make the phone stop, right? So how can we make the phone stop? The first thing we want to look at is we want to talk about the deliveries to the factory. I'll show you 2 delivery vehicles we receive. Anybody guess we're at RESO today what those delivery vehicles are? Yeah, transport, right? So I picked these vehicles. We'll talk about them here in a minute. Up top, we got the new Rivian van from Amazon, the new electric van. We'll call that Web API. And down below, we got Old Trusty, the USPS. Delivers 6 days a week. And these come to our factory every 15 minutes from 400 and some sources that we receive, right? Some of you may still be receiving this source. May know what this source is? FTP, yeah, of course. I pick a train, a toy train as FTP. Thankfully, we don't receive any FTP at our factory. We didn't build out for that, and thankfully, we haven't had to build out for that, but we do receive the first 2 at the top. And then you'll see what we do is we basically go through the process of standardizing data and normalizing data to kick out a RESO compliant data dictionary payload that we have internally. Now, some of the payloads we receive, mainly from Web API, are already data dictionary compliant, and those have less interaction or less things we need to touch internally on our factory. So this is a kind of behind the scenes tour of what it looks like today in our data factory. The first thing we wanted to focus on, though, was right here. Like anyone, you want to make sure that the product that comes into your factory is good and is utilized to its best ability and at the end gets kicked out, right? And that it is utilized and nothing falls on the factory floor. You want to make sure nothing falls off a belt, that, hey, of the data we're processing today, is it making its way to remax.com? So this is something we looked at internally and said, we want to make sure what's going in is coming out at the other end. Now, this can be tricky. We can receive data like emojis in public remarks, right? That could potentially mess things up. We could receive weird formats and photos that can mess things up and they never make their way to the marketplace. So we created this. Anybody know what a DLQ is? It's a dead letter queue. So dead letter queue tells us, hey, anything that was rejected during the process, let's put it in this bin so we can go back and inspect this bin. What's in the bin, right? So when we first turn this on and it's messy, you start to see everything that comes through under images. And I'm gonna focus on images here first. That was one of our first focus for the DLQ is images. First of all, you don't always receive images. You receive all kinds of things in the images or in media. And we started to look at that. What we were really looking for is how many of these images we were able to download still, how many gave us 404s, were we able to process the image and resize the image? So when we take in images in the factory, we chop it up into 3 different image sizes. We store those in our CloudFront. So we have fast loading of images for mobile and web and all the other applications that we use that on. Well, there was some images that weren't processing. They actually looked like this. So the more we started to look into this, we actually had 2 vendors in the room that this was happening on. One was we were getting deliveries from MLS Grid. We'd go to download the image, and this is what the image would look like. We also had an issue with FBS. Now, this was very hard to find. You're talking 1 in 1,000 would look like this. And it was random. It wasn't like, oh, every Tuesday morning we get one image like this. No, it would just happen whenever, right? We would get an image that wouldn't go. And I would go to Zillow, I'd go to Realtor.com. This image was missing. Nobody has it. Okay, well, let's try to figure out the problem. So what we did was we took the DLQ. I called up Joseph at MLS Grid. Where's he at? Right here. I said, Joseph, in North Star MLS, I get an image once in a while that looks like this. He goes, yeah, we've gotten a couple complaints about that. Data quality of yesterday, right? We hear it once in a while. Not enough to fix it yet. How often does it happen? I don't know. How about I email you every time I get one? Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'll just email you every time I get one. So in our DLQ, I set up a route to say, if you recognize an image that's a partial image, throw it over to Joseph at MLS Grid. How long do you think it took before Joseph said, stop sending me emails? The problem turned out to be bigger than we thought, right? So with DLQs, they're really interesting. You have an action and effect, and we can give immediate feedback. And as I think about RESO, I think about new standards we could create to get better with data quality, right? Hey, we think there's a problem. Can we tell you about it? And that's what we did. So I turned it on. This is 4:39 p.m. I think I turned it on in the morning. Same day on this Friday. Okay, I cry uncle. Can you remove my email address? I sent him 42 images that happened in one day that were those partial images. So this is the power of the DLQ, to be able to analyze when something falls off the factory floor, and we want to get proactive. And the same exact thing happened. We had one issue with Flex MLS, and a great response from those folks over at FBS. We did it as well. Only took about 2 days before they're like, okay, can you shut it off now? The person who's getting these emails hates them. They're going to go fix it. And we ended up fixing a lot of partial image issues that were downstream for consumers, right? Again, we want to make sure that data quality is the level it needs to be and that the listing gets the best representation possible out there. So let's talk about the deliveries to the factory and how we're being proactive with the deliveries. We really get two types of deliveries. We get Web API and we get RETS deliveries, and most of you are probably aware of these two transport methods. These two transport methods are critical for us to make sure that we replicate properly, right? As stuff gets delivered, it has to be on time. We have to make sure that we're getting the data that represented what changed in the marketplace and that it's making its way to our products that we have today. But how do we know we're doing that? So the only check we have, because we can't check amongst each other and we don't know what the truth is, the only check we have is we can go back to the MLS in a call and ask for counts. So we can say, we have 7,000 listings right now. We want to go back and ask, how many listings should we have? Well, you should have 7,000. Great. We're at 100% coverage for that specific MLS. And you have to do this over and over. And for those of you that replicate data in here, you're probably well aware of this process of going back and asking for counts. But this is what it looks like on our side. Now, this is a bit of an eye chart, so I apologize. But what you want the MLS to have, and these are all different MLSs that you're seeing on the right-hand side. They're actually Elasticsearch indexes, and we're using Kibana to evaluate the sigma level of what that MLS is at. So we're trying to reach a sigma level of 9 above. We're trying to reach a sigma level of 100% within an MLS. But what you're seeing is the variations of that. So you want all the MLS lines to be at 100. That means we have 100% coverage. But what you'll see is some fallout sometime, right? You'll see that we have 1,000 listings, but we just asked the MLS, and the MLS has 1,050. That would drop it below the line and say you need to catch up in that process, right? And we've learned some things from this process. Look at the top line there. The one that you see going up, why would it ever go up above a certain percentage? You know, we have more than what the MLS says we should have. And a lot of this has to do with properties coming off market. A lot of us in markets where we don't get sold data, it's tough to tell when something goes off market. So we have to do this cleanup process, not a catch-up process, but a cleanup process to take properties off the market. They just disappear on us in some markets, which you would think we have that solved today, but it's not necessarily solved yet today, to be able to define when a property goes off market. So now we're starting to see our pipelines over time and how they're reacting and who potentially is not doing well and the health level of these specific indexes that we have here, or let's call them deliveries. How much are we gaining or losing over a period? So if you look at the top one, actually the top one here, this is, the top one there is Bright MLS, as our team calls it internally. Bright, you're probably gonna hate this, but internally the developers call you Brimmels as, excuse me. And when I first heard it, I was like, who's Brimmels? Oh, Bright MLS, that's our abbreviation for it. You'll see the catch-up where we've caught up over time, and this is just within the day. We've caught 228 listings that we didn't catch in our normal deliveries from the MLS. So we're setting timestamps every 15 minutes, we're going back and polling, but we've caught 228 properties, and we've gained 228 properties that we didn't catch in our normal process. What we have found, though, in this process, and looking at the trending of this, is that Web API is way better than RETS. So I need your help. We have some theories. Why is Web API better at deliveries than RETS? So here are my theories. You ready for them? Number one, I got too far away from something. I don't know, I can't click. We suck at RETS. It could be, we're a young group. We've only been doing this 5 years. We might not be talking to RETS servers correctly, and RETS just gets behind quicker than Web API. Theory number two, RETS servers suck at timestamps. Think that's what's causing it? I think it's a combination, actually. Could we be better? Yes. Is doing catch-up normal? I talked to Rick in the room, who's from Constellation One in here. Catch-up seems to be normal for a lot of these servers. I think I've talked to Joseph, too. Number three, Web API feeds actually buffer us from RETS. So when I talk to Web API, I'm usually not talking to the actual system. I'm talking to like MLS Grid. I'm talking to Trestle. They're talking to the RETS server. They don't suck at RETS. So it makes it better for us downstream when we talk via Web API. In general, as more Web API feeds come out, but Dan, aren't they all out? Yeah, I think they're all out. We don't necessarily have access to all of them yet. But as Web API becomes more popular in the marketplace, I think we're gonna see higher quality data from everyone. Because with Web API, we also get another thing. We tend to get data dictionary, which is key for us to be able to provide quality data to our downstream partners. Data quality of tomorrow. So you saw my first example of a home that was priced at $96 million. I still can't believe that, $500,000. How do you predict that? Well, I think machine learning and other things are actually going to make this easier to help us better determine when something goes wrong. MLSs can already predict what's gonna happen tomorrow. Did you know that? Look in the data of an MLS. They're predicting the future. Here are all the future sales. Closed listings that have already happened in the future. This is standard status closed with a closed price that have already happened in the future. Now, I'm probably gonna get some flack after this and say, Dan, those are future closings, that's why they're in there. Okay, we can go further. Let's go. These are all the sold listings in the red there that are already gonna happen in 2024. And the rest are in the future as well. I'm particularly interested in this line. There is 16 closings that are gonna happen in the future here. Anybody wanna guess at the year? What year is that closing gonna happen? 20 what? 2099, that's a good guess. That is actually May of 2079. How do we have closings in May of 2079? Again, we're talking about data validation, data entry. Do you allow closings in the future that far? Maybe we can stop that. Let's start on that process, right? Man, you guys got the Zestimate really going crazy on these numbers. So the data quality for us tomorrow, and this is just starting right now from us, this is actually internally in our Slack channel called DCS Field Validation. What we're starting to do is alert our team when we see anomalies of missing data or data that we feel isn't correct. This is down to the field level. This is Data Dictionary 2.0 stuff here, folks. The validation of the data, the quality of the data, makes a difference. So you'll see here, we're starting to alert the team around buyer agent key. That's an important field to us, right? To be able to link our agents directly to the listings. Buyer office key. We're at 78.9% of 95%. Right now, this channel is messy. It's very messy in that we haven't tuned it correctly to get to this information. Really, to extract the information we need out of this is very difficult at the end of the day. But what I want to say is, I think RESO can help out. Things like Data Dictionary 2.0 and the certification of not only the certification of fields, but also the certification of values is going to make a difference at the end of the day. These are what I want you to learn from my presentation today, and I believe that things like Web API, transitioning or pushing your MLS to convert to Web API is going to be less tickets for you, happier customers at the end of the day by adhering to RESO standards. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy your lunch. We have Sam coming up next.